was a reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I came across this little story about a lawsuit that was being brought by hemophiliacs against the blood products industry. And so I called one of the lawyers. He told me, he said, if you stick with this, if you really dig into this, it's going to be like nothing else you've ever covered.
Someone should have said, there's a danger here.
This was one of the largest medically induced epidemics in the history of this country. How could that have happened?
Pharmaceutical companies, the doctors, the FDA, the government, they had the knowledge. I don't know what their intent was, but they had the knowledge. They failed to warn us. They failed to warn us.
In pharmaceutical companies, profit drives research. It's a wonderful thing, but never at the expense of safety. That's kind of what got lost here, and it can get lost again. It's too easy to get lost.
When they came to my parents and they said, one of your children has hemophilia and one of your children does not, they said, well, we knew it was you because you were always bruised and battered by doing nothing.
We would always have to rush him to emergency rooms. We got to know almost every hospital emergency room in New York City.
I remember when he was about 8 and he hurt his leg. His leg looked like a watermelon. And it was just, no matter where he put himself, it was just the pain, because the pressure of it. It was a lot of pressure on this little person. It had to be excruciating.
Born in 1971, Matthew Kleiner escaped hemophilia's darkest era, a time when no treatment was available and patients rarely lived past their teens. By the 1950s, crude treatments meant children survived, but it was a very difficult life.
Hemophilia is a blood clotting disorder. It's a very large misunderstanding that if you have a little cut on your finger, you're just going to bleed to death on the spot. That is not true at all. The major problem in hemophilia bleeding is internally. That's where the crippling manifestations of hemophilia make themselves felt. Bleeding in the knees, the ankles, and other big joints. So life was really hell.
When you have hemophilia, you're more likely to bruise. And so I would have these big purple and black bruises on different parts of my body. And when my mother took me to the store, she would get very angry looks from other people, especially other mothers, because they drew the conclusion that she was hitting me.
Ordinary activities causes blood vessels to break. Normally, the body's clotting process repairs them, but with hemophilia, internal bleeding begins.
Sometimes slowly, sometimes very quickly. The pain goes from dull to acute to, and it's in its worst form, it's really a kind of a torture. And it can go on for hours and hours, even days. Your mind shrinks to a very tiny space where all you can think about is how to get to the next second, and then from that second to the next second after that.
Hemophilia is caused by a genetic mutation and is usually passed from a mother to one or more of her sons. People with hemophilia have low levels of one of two clotting proteins found in blood, called factor VIII and factor IX. The degree to which this protein is absent determines whether a case is mild, moderate, or severe.